Hello. Why is stress, your breath, so important to you healing your pelvic floor pain? In this video, I'm going to tell you why. So for anyone that has been suffering with pelvic pain and you're trying to get to the bottom of it, trying to resolve this pain, I'm going to explain to you why it is so very important that you manage and learn how to identify stress. We put ourselves in positions that are less stressful and we get connected with our breath. So here we go. A little bit of anatomy for you. Thanks to the Pelvic Guru for this graphic. We've got the core muscle team, and that includes your diaphragm muscle, your pelvic floor, and your deep abdominal muscles. They do work as a team. They are not lone wolves. And when they work together, they can do lovely things like we breathe in, they shift down, we breathe out, they shift back up. The belly expands this way when we breathe in and should recoil back a bit when we exhale. So these muscles at the top, the diaphragm and the pelvic floor, are linked to a nerve called the vagus nerve. And just to make it simple, they are really linked to fight or flight nervous system. And this is where you'll have remembered if you were really scared or you're being chased, your breathing would have definitely been different. We often shallow breathe, and when that stress is finally removed from our life, we can breathe a sigh of relief, and we usually go, yes. So this is where your being scared, stressed is going to influence, we understand our diaphragm, but its buddy at the bottom of that core system, the pelvic floor, is doing the same thing. When we are stressed and when women have been shown videos that were violent or scary, the pelvic floor muscles were the first muscle to contract. So when we are in a constant state of stress, whether it's being in a pandemic, things just not going well at home or work, you can expect that your pelvic floor pain might likely be worse. So we are going to talk about how we're going to get on top of that pain and resolve it through working on our breath. Now, on one hand, you might hear, yeah, breathing, it's important. People talk about it, or we do it in yoga class. But here's the real deal. After the last 10 years of working in pelvic health, I have found that when we can really work to connect the pelvic floor and the diaphragm together with breath, because very oftentimes the pelvic floor becomes detached or disconnected from the coordination or from the team in the core. So we could take all the nice belly breaths we want, and I will find that people's pelvic floor muscles are staying just as clenched as they were before we started breathing. So as we learn how to take really good breaths and practice, we can then start to stimulate the opposite of fight or flight. When I see patients, they will start out being very disconnected, can't take deep breaths. And as we learn how to release the pelvic floor with inhale, when it finally starts to kick in, even at the beginning, people will tell me that their pain goes from a 7 out of 10 when I lightly have an inserted finger in the vaginal opening, testing the muscles for tenderness. They will tell me at first with a very light touch that feels like a 7 out of 10 pain. When we then start to do rudimentary inhale and try to bulge the belly and release the pelvic floor, when it just starts to connect for them, I will then again lightly press on the muscle, and guess what they tell me? They'll say, the pain now is like a 2 out of 10. I didn't do anything fancy. I was just there to listen to their muscle and coach them on connecting their muscles with their breath. But what happened is they triggered their parasympathetic nervous system, and they downtrained their fight or flight or their sympathetic nervous system. The magic for them was in playing with their brain and playing with their nervous system. So I want you to realize that this is why breathing is so important. This is also why I have a really cute office. As you can see, people need to feel safe. They need to feel relaxed when they are working on reducing pelvic floor tension and belly tension and start to turn the corner in their pelvic pain. So maybe you've heard of taking your deep belly breaths in the past and it didn't click for you, But it truly, once we start to get your diaphragm and pelvic floor connected and belly connected with your breathing, that's when my patients are turning the corner. That's when the ahas are made, and when the giant leaps from 7 out of 10 pain goes down to 2 by the end of a session, is through that breath. So if you have questions, you can definitely reach out to me. But I would start even today, starting to do little groups of 5 to 10 belly breaths. Try to find a relaxing place. Try to make sure that wherever you're at, you're not gripping your belly, gripping your inner thigh muscles, and just start from there. And I also strongly encourage you to find a pelvic PT in your area, or connect with me and I will help you myself. So I hope that you guys have a good day, and here's to much less pelvic pain.